he stated, this is Naomi with McCorma, and I'm just going to share with you a little bit about how you can maybe automate some of your AP processes. So I'm going to try to keep this informal. If you do have any questions, I think we're going to have plenty of time at the end. If you want to go ahead and submit them maybe via the chat pane in the bottom right-hand corner, and we'll try to fit those questions in here. I mean, if they're fitting, we can kind of fit them in as we go. Otherwise, again, we'll have plenty of time at the end to make sure we get those questions taken care of. All right, so our goal here at McCorma is really in terms of helping you automate your AP processes. So our goals are really still the same as they were from the beginning, but we are changing as a company in a very substantial way. So we're primarily, as you probably know, have been known as MICR, which is for the MICR checks. Although that still is true today, and there's many, many people using that tool, we have seen where advanced technology is taking over the accounts payable industry. So the migration away from all of those paper checks over to the electronic payment processing really has been in the works for many of years. So what McCorma has done is we've dedicated all of our development and efforts to give you guys, the customer, the easiest and really most efficient way to incorporate these new options into your existing Dynamics GP environment that you're currently using. So this is a fully integrated service. It does provide all the latest automation and processing options. So really owning McCorma means that you've opened your door up to the advanced technologies that really go far beyond just the days of those basic MICR check printing options. So some of the McCorma products that I want to maybe highlight today and talk about, which are some of the new features here, as I briefly explained, we've added some new and exciting things. All right, let me just back up here. For some reason, I am getting a message stating that they cannot hear me. So I just want to make sure. Are you guys, Brandon, Ryan, can you guys hear me okay?
Naomi, I can hear you.
Okay, did you see that message there?
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on my end. So I will go ahead and continue. Let me just, okay, so apparently I can be heard now. So sorry about that, guys. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and continue here. So what we've done is we've added some new and exciting things here at McCorma. So I wanted to make sure that you guys are familiar with all of the tools and programs that we have to offer you. So with the new Power Approvals, which you see here, you're gonna have the ability to really approve or reject any of your batches outside of GP right from your mobile device. So right now, the current existing McCormick Payment Hub, that's going to help you in terms of creating those batches through your payment methods, including those approvals, thresholds, signatures, or even your blank check stock like your MICR. But with that new Power Approval, that's going to give you that flexibility on being able to approve and or reject them outside of GP, which is really kind of opens up the doors for many new things. I do want to also mention the payroll pack. That's going to be very similar to your payment hub, but it's designed specifically for your US or Canadian payroll. I'm not sure if any of you guys are using the binary stream multi-entity management. I know there's quite a few GP users who do use that. And so we here at McCorma are fully integrated with that MEM connector. So if you are using that binary stream, which there's not going to be any issues here with any of the McCorma products. And then the enhanced electronic payments. And I'm not sure, this is maybe a program you guys have heard of, but really this is where you're going to be able to take control. And this is where we handle all of those payment types for you on your behalf. So whether it's going to be the virtual credit card, your check, or even your ACH or EFT, we're going to handle all of that vendor recruitment as well, and is part of the enhanced electronic payments. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. And I want to focus a little bit more in depth on the McCormick Payment Hub. Now remember, the McCormick Payment Hub was previously known, or what you might know to be Micker, right? Just your basic Micker printing. But really the Payment Hub is more than just your Micker. So we've added our robotic payment process automation with what we call now our Actionboard, which really is going to be a dashboard. And I'll show you a little bit more about how that works and what I mean here as we continue. You also have your task-based security, which is kind of a workflow or authorization. And then your electronic signatures, which can easily be added in, those audit logs, and if you want to archive any of those checks as well. So that's some of the main core functionality of the Payment Hub. Now, kind of going back to the Power Approvals, which allows you to approve any of those batches outside of GP. So the McCormick's task-based security gives you the ability to apply that approval or authorization process for all of your payment batches prior to the generation of any of your checks and or EFTs. So really you can set up any of those threshold roles based off of your payment amounts. And we're going to automatically apply all of the approval and the signature logic behind that. So your approvers or authorizers can log into GP, they can review the payments and or access that new Power Approvals where you can approve or reject them outside of GP. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the enhanced electronic payments that I briefly had mentioned earlier. So the Advanced Payment Hub, or the enhanced electronic payments, this service is really an icing on the cake. So this is part of what we now call the Advanced Payment Hub. And so qualified customers really can eliminate all of their check payment expenses. And we're going to convert 80% or more of your vendors to some form of electronic payment using all of the new features that you get with the new Advanced Hub automation. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar or aware of maybe how much it costs your company to send out paper checks. So just in terms of general estimates, that can range anywhere from $3 to $8 per check. And think if you're processing, let's say, or even more checks per week, if you add that up, that's really a significant amount over the course of years. So I mean, that could really range from anywhere from, let's say, $15,000 all the way up to $40,000 per year. And we're going to circle back onto our enhanced electronic payments here as we kind of go throughout and make sure that you guys are fully aware of how the program works. But really, the one thing I wanted to make sure that you were aware of is this is part of what we now call the Advanced Payment Hub. All right, so the Create Batches, which is part of that Payment Hub and or Action Board, is really part of our new robotic process automation. So what that's going to allow you guys, the user, to do, if you are using or have more than one company in GP and or more than one checkbook, you're going to be able, with one click, be able to create all of those batches across those companies and across those checkbooks, and really set up any of those rules as you would like. The one thing is, once you set it up and create those rules, you're going to be able to run those rules and whenever you want. So those rules are something you save. So the Action Board is going to give you access to all of those batches from all of those companies and checkbooks. And then you can also do print edit reports from all of those batches at one time as well. And then I'm not sure if you guys do any of your like SafePay or Positive Pay. So with that, you've got your EFT and SafePay files that can automatically be generated for all of your companies as well. So in terms of that Action Board, you can, again, kind of think of that as your dashboard. And really, it's going to be the easiest way to create those payment batches. So as you can see from the illustration shown, it's a very user-friendly, easy to get window, and it looks very similar to maybe some of those GP windows, right? So you're going to be able to create those payment batches, print those checks, generate those EFTs and SafePay files right there on that one screen. What we're doing is we're leveraging Dynamics GP. So we're not changing any of those rules or logic that are already built into GP, but we are leveraging it. So we're going to respect all of those rules that currently are there, but we're going to create those efficiencies so we can really streamline those AP processes and just save you time just with your day-to-day workflow. So with the action board, really, you're not going to need to spend hours or lots of money on trying to figure out how to use the tool. So it's a very, as I stated, user-friendly tool, and it's very simple and basic to set up. So you're not going to need to waste hours or money trying to figure it out. Really, there's 3 simple steps, and it has to do with choosing the database that you want to use, creating that batch criteria, and then assigning each of that criteria to a checkbook. All right, so ask yourself today. Now, I'm sure you guys, if you are the ones that are creating these batches, you guys know how much time it takes and how much time you waste clicking in and out of those screens, right? So if you think about, ask yourself, you know, you're clicking a button, you're waiting. You're clicking a button, you're waiting. You're going in and out of screens, in and out of screens. Well, that might be okay, right? But with all of that, you think of the loss of productivity. Think of in terms of accuracy issues that you're going to be facing. And then, of course, just the actual frustration of going in and out of those windows. So if you can change that and literally on one window, create all of those batches, it's definitely going to help streamline those AP processes. So processes that we've automated here through that payment hub is going to be the check or EFT selection, the approvals, just being able to request those approvals. And as we talked about, that new power approval that's outside of GP. You've got your print edit list, printing, the remittance processing of those EFTs, and then of course generating any of those EFT or SafePay files as well. So when we think of AP as a whole, you think of what you're creating the batches, you're processing the batches, right? And then you're paying those vendors. So let's talk a little bit more about processing those batches. So the term MICR check refers to really starting with a blank check stock, as you see here in the image on the left, and printing all of that required information as you see on the image on the right. So this is going to help eliminate other time-consuming tasks like dealing with multiple pre-printed stock, as well as just reducing your risk of that manual check fraud writing. McCormick comes with a library of pre-designed formats that you can use and modify. Now, all of these predefined formats can be customized using the McCormick specialized check configurator. So this check configurator makes it very easy to customize all of those check formats with its standard, nice and easy drag and drop interface. Now, once you configure the McCormick MICR check, these checks can be printed from the same place throughout that process where you can print out the box of GP checks, such as like you would on that print payment window. Now, McCormick's TaskBased Security gives you that ability to apply an approval or authorization process for all of those payment batches prior to that generation of checks or EFTs. So you're going to be able to set up those threshold roles based on the payment amounts, where we automatically apply those approval and the signature logic. So your approvers and your authorizers can go ahead and log into GP to review payments. But with our new Power Approval, which is coming out here, I believe, in Q1 of 2020, we have added, again, that ability to be able to do those approvals outside of GP. So let's just take a look in terms of how that secure approval workflow works. So in this case, we're using Ryan as our example. So let's say Ryan is our GP user, right? And he's creating a payment batch. So what happens is that user must then request the approval on that batch to really start that workflow process. This can be done from whether it's your edit payment batch there in GP, you've got the vendor payment, the build payment batch, or the print payment batches. That can be done right from any of those windows in GP. But approvers can then be requested on all created batches right from within the McCorma payment batch status list. So what's going to happen is your approvers are going to receive an email and or a text notification that the payment batch needs approval. And of course, that's within the assigned threshold amounts. And then the approver can access GP from any location and payments that are listed by vendor in the McCorma approval list. So it's possible then to view all of those vouchers that have been applied for each payment. If you do have like a document management system that you're using as well that integrates with GP, you're going to have access to those scanned invoices right from that screen as well. But payments at that vendor level can be either approved or rejected right from the batch. So approvers can provide a detailed message right back to that requester as to why those payments should not be processed and how to proceed. So once that approval has been given, the requester then is notified via email that the batch can be processed. And then our McCorma audit log would keep record of all of those payments in which GP user has approved. So with part of this, though, you've got your electronic signatures that can be added in, which can then really streamline that process as well. So if we talk about really that same secure approval workflow, but with split batches, it's going to work very similar. However, you're going to have maybe more than one approver, right? You're going to have two approvers, which have different threshold limits. And therefore, you're also possibly going to have multiple signatures that are needed, depending upon how you have your criteria set up. So the way that that's going to work, again, it's very similar where that batch has been created and that a user then is requesting approval. So depending upon that threshold, again, if it's less than 5,000, it's only going to require the one approval. So then an email is sent to Karen. However, if it's over 5,000, that then email is sent to Karen and Megan because there's that split batch, which is going to need dual approver. So then Karen is going to review that and either approve or reject. Megan is going to get notified. And then, of course, at that point, all those rejects are moved and message is sent back to Ryan, letting him know that, hey, this has been approved or rejected. And then if it is approved, those signatures, which is part of the electronic signatures, are then automatically printed on those checks. All right, so the check image archiving, which we briefly talked about, really what that is that's going to be an audit log report that records the details of all of the posted checks or EFT batches, including the approvers or authorizers of each of those batch. So this feature really provides that added layer of security when processing payments with McCorma. All right, so we talked about creating the batches. We also talked about processing those batches. Now let's talk a little bit about paying those batches. So we're kind of going full circle back to the enhanced electronic payments. So with the new advanced payment hub, the electronic payments is part of it. So let's just take a look at what your traditional processes look like in GP. So today in GP, when you're printing your checks, you basically have to you print them, You stuff them in an envelope, you put a stamp on it, and you throw that in the mail, right? Well, with ACH, again, there's still a lot of manual processes that are involved with it. You have that file that you need to generate, which then you send over to your bank. Now, don't forget, right, on the vendor side of things, you have all of those remittance details. So they're going to want to know the invoices that have been paid, how much those invoices were for, and so forth. And then you just have your typical manual payments. So your credit cards, your wire transfers, as well as your checks. Now, what we did here at McCorma and what we really thought about is how can we add a whole new payment type into GP? So that's where the electronic payments comes into place. So you can do the electronic payments right now, but all of that again is manual and involves sending over a file. And then you got to think about the remittance side of thing as well. So moving back just to the single payment processing, so you're not going to want to have to process ACH one way, checks another way, and then let's say your virtual credit cards one way. So we wanted you to have that ability to process all of these right within the same screen in GP. So when you click process as of today, what's going to happen is it's going to print out a bunch of checks. Instead, if you were with the electronic payments, if you were to click process, what we have it do is we're having it talk to our cloud-based back end, and that's where we're going to do all the work for you. So nowadays, there's really no need to have any of those manual processes like those output files, transfers, or having to worry about any of that. So another thing that you got to kind of ask yourself is, how do you get all of this back into GP, right? Well, that's where this program differs from many programs that are similar, is the fact that this program is fully integrated with GP, and all of that transactional and reconciliation is going to automatically flow back into GP for you. So really, we can streamline your AP processes, save you time, and automate everything as much as possible. Now, how do you get qualified for the electronic payments? So in order to get qualified, what we typically ask for is we're going to need to get a copy of all of your vendors with their AP spend. Now, once we get that, what we do is we then compare that list to a list of vendors that we already know accepts that virtual credit card as payment. So what we would provide you with that analysis to let you know, hey, these are the vendors that are going to take the electronic payments, such as your V card. These are the vendors that we can get over to your ACH or EFT. And then these are the vendors that we're still going to have to process, via check. So really all it takes is us getting a copy of that, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can generate those lists right there in SQL, or if you're using a build 75 or greater, you're going to be able to generate that list right there from the Mekorma tool. Now, in terms of the enhanced electronic payments, you're already using, or most of you are probably already using Miker, and you're going to continue to use that. But again, instead of all those checks printing out, what happens is that payment information is sent over to the payment optimization engine in the cloud, and that's what's going to handle the processing of all of those payments for you. Now, these payments are still drawn on your bank account, and all of the checks and ACH information are done on your behalf. So this program encompasses all of those payment types. So whether it's processing virtual credit cards, checks, or the ACH, we're going to take care of all of that at no cost on your behalf if you qualify for the program. Again, the other really nice thing is this is fully integrated into GP. So all of that transactional and reconciliation data is going to automatically flow back into GP, which takes away, again, all of that manual process and really creates those efficiencies and saves you time. All right, now who wouldn't qualify? When we 1099 and or your payroll, that would not be part of your typical AP spend that we would look at. So typically 10 million is a really good number to be at, but in most cases, you don't even have to be at that 10 million, and that's really not the number we're looking at. So we are going to exclude that 1099 or payroll in terms of that annual spend. But as long as we can get at least $1 million over into the virtual credit card spend, that's what's really going to qualify you for that program. Now, if majority of your payments are already, so if you have a large number of vendors that are already taking payments via ACH or EFT, and they don't want to convert over to the virtual credit card, that could possibly disqualify you if we can't reach that $1 million annual virtual credit card spend. Also, if you have a large amount of like insurance payouts, or if your primary business is gaming casino, that would be a disqualifier as well. Now, why do you want to become qualified? Well, if you qualify for this program, we're going to take care of the annual maintenance that you are already paying on that payment hub. So that's the tool that most of you probably already own, which is the Micker that we talked about. We're also going to add in the Actionboard, which is part of the multi-batch management tool, as well as the enhanced electronic payments as well. So these are the tools that we talked about earlier on. And then with this, we're going to do all of the implementation and all of the vendor recruitment at no cost to you. And this again is if you qualify. So we are going to contact all of your vendors and work out a custom communication plan and handle it just as you would want us to. So maybe you guys have some specific vendors that you don't want us to contact, and that's certainly fine. Then we won't. Or you know, maybe you have some local vendors that you want to still pay via check. You certainly can still do that. So we're not going to interfere with that. So really, we can customize a plan that's going to specifically work for you. And so in regards to the implementation as well, we're going to take care of the implementation and setup. And that is part of the no cost qualification. We do also have our help desk support, not only to help you guys as our customer, but also to help your vendors as well. So we don't want to burden you at all. So if maybe your vendor has a question about how to process a payment, or maybe a specific payment didn't post, we have a number that they can contact in which we're going to help and guide them through any questions that they may have on that. All right, I'm sure you're probably wondering, how can you do this at no cost, right? And as I stated, it is a no cost program for any of you who do qualify. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to recruit between 10 to 25% of your vendors over to the virtual credit cards. Now, as you guys know, right, when you make a credit card transaction, there is a small fee associated with clearing that transaction. What we get is we get a very small percentage of that, and that is what's paying for the program as well as the implementation and the services behind it. We are going to work again on that customized communication plan, and we're going to talk to all of those vendors. We're not going to pick and choose. So, however, if there's ones you want to exclude, we certainly can exclude them. But we're going to make a large effort to try to get all of those vendors over to accept those virtual credit cards, because again, that's what's paying for the program. Now, the really neat thing is if your virtual credit card spend is great enough, there's a chance that we can even get some rebates back to you. Now, I've worked with many customers that have had the ability to where their spend has been great enough to where they're getting some substantial rebates back. Those are typically paid on a quarterly basis. And I mean, it can really range anywhere from, let's say, 15,000 all the way up to, there's no limit. So, so you could really turn, you know, your AP processing into profit instead of a cost group for you. So now, what other payments do we offer? So the enhanced electronic payments really encompasses all payment types. So whether we're doing the check printing, that's going to be part of it. And that's probably going to end up being about 25% of your vendors. We're going to still be paying via check. Again, if you choose to print them locally and handle that, you certainly can. Or if you want us to do that, and if you qualify as part of the program, it's something we would do at no cost for you. Now, after we recruit for the V card, any of those that are not willing to accept that V card, we're going to try to convert some of them over to the ACH or EFT payments. And then, of course, any of those that are not willing to do the ACH or EFT, those ones we would process via check. As you add new vendors as well, we're going to continue to do that same outreach to any of those new vendors as well. So, all right. This tends to be a big deal, and this is definitely something that's different than a lot of other programs out there. So I'm just going to remind you, we do all of the vendor enrollment for you. So we have a specialized enrollment team that will work with you and customize a communication plan that fits your specific business needs. So in terms of qualification on those enhanced electronic payments, again, all we need is a copy of your vendor list with their AP spend. We keep that internally. This is something we do not do any outreach to any of your vendors at this point. This is something that's internal, where we can then provide you again with those results. And that way you guys can make that informed decision to see if, hey, this is a program that you would want to proceed with. Now, moving forward, the enhanced electronic payments is part of what we now call the Advanced Payment Hub. So remember what we talked about in terms of that payment hub, where you're getting the MICR, right? You're getting the secure approvals, you're getting the electronic signatures. That is going to be part of all of this, which is part of that Advanced Payment Hub. There's no commitment. So let's say you provide us with a copy of your vendor list and AP spend, and you decide, hey, this just isn't a program we want to proceed with. It doesn't cost you anything for us to run that analysis, so at least give you those details. All right, and again, I'm going to reiterate the McCorma Power Approvals. So this is something new. It's coming in 2020. This is where you're going to be able to approve those batches from your phone, your tablet, and or your PC. So that's coming up. Look for more information on that. It's pretty exciting. All right, now I know I've done a lot of talking. Hopefully there wasn't any audio issues. You guys were able to hear me throughout, just because I know some of you there was a message saying that you couldn't hear me. So hopefully there wasn't any issues. What I want to do at this point is I do want to open it up for any additional questions. And then I think, so if you want to go ahead, I don't know if there's any, I don't see any questions in the chat pane. However, at this point in time, if you wanted to go ahead and submit those via the chat pane, or if maybe we can unmute you if you wanted to voice those questions, and we can certainly take those questions that way as well. All right, was there any questions that I can answer for anyone? All right, well, I know we kind of finished a little bit quicker than what I originally had thought. So I know what I'll do too is I believe this slide deck will be available, and I believe a recording of this will also be available. So if it's something you guys wanted to kind of take a look back at, you certainly can do so. But I know I definitely kind of threw a lot of information within a short time frame. So, I mean, if there's any other questions that you have, by all means, feel free to reach out. I mean, I would love to talk with each of you individually about maybe some of your processes, ways that we can maybe help you, you know, improve the efficiency. I know it's kind of hard based off of kind of this general call, but I would love to have, you know, an individual call with any of you. So by all means, reach out and then we can discuss your AP processes in greater detail and really help you streamline them. Maybe it's a goal you guys have in 2020. So.
All right. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining in. And one more time, I'll just ask any questions at all. Feel free to either raise your hand, or I think I unmuted everyone at this point. So if you do have any questions, feel free to let us know. All right. Well, anything else, Naomi, that you can think of?
No, I think that'll do it. I do want to thank everybody again just for taking your time to learn a little bit more about some of the McCormick products. As you guys have kind of learned, we have some new and exciting things coming up. So I definitely look forward to working with you guys all here in the near future. Happy holidays to everyone and hope to talk to you all soon.
All right. Thank you so much. It was great.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.